Hi, everybody. My name is Joel Weston. I work at AGS Stainless. Yeah, today we'll be going over prefabricated ornamental stainless steel railing systems. So I'm just going to go through a few slides. We do have a copyright slide just to make sure if you do happen to record this, please don't distribute it. And that's pretty much all there is for copyright. A little bit about myself. My name is Joel. Like I said, I've been working at AGS Stainless for about a year now, so fairly new to the industry, but I have been in the building materials industry for about 10 years. So I have a lot of experience in, outside sales, and just really enjoy giving these presentations to architects and builders, and traveling around the country, visiting projects, and just getting to know the industry a lot more. I never knew there was so much to learn about stainless steel railings, but hopefully by the end of the presentation, you'll have some good information that you can use on projects. And if you have any questions, we do have a little Q&A session at the end, but I might stop throughout the presentation as well, just in case you guys have any questions. So without further ado, here we get going. This is going to be my agenda for the day. We're going to give you a good understanding. It will be sort of a 101 lesson on just railing in general, and then definitely, with a focus towards stainless steel material, and why that's a preferable material to use with railings, decorative railings especially, or ornamental railings. We'll go over the materials and components, code requirements, and we'll just get right into the conclusion after that. So here we go. And if I am not able to answer all the questions, forgive me, I'll get back to you as soon as I have the answers. As long as you you can let Mike or Cassidy know what your question is in the chat, or we can just have a Q&A session at the end. So really like to focus on sustainability. That's still a huge subject today. We are still living in an era of sustainability, and more we're just trying to discover and realize, how architects, engineers, designers can help more builders, general contractors, and homeowners just to understand sustainability in general. And really, being a prefabricator, we want to just share as much information so you understand how you can sort of present that in front of, a general contractor or a homeowner if they're not too familiar with it. So prefabrication is just a great solution, and you can specify custom prefabricated railing for any project. So one of the great ways it is sustainable is fabricated 100% offsite, and it's delivered to the job site ready to be installed. So a few of the reasons is durability, recyclability, resistance to corrosion, and it's simple enough for a builder or a contractor, or even like a homeowner that is sort of a DIY homeowner, to do it themselves. So we're going to be going through some of the different options available for railing. We're going to talk about wood, composite, and aluminum a little bit. And then we're just going to sort of, focus, like I said, on stainless steel and why that's the preferred choice. That's mostly because of its low maintenance, its long lifespan. And then if we have a little bit more time at the end, I'll get into another hybrid option. But for the most part, we're going to be focusing just on prefabrication and how it differs from on-site fabrication. So as I said, this prefabrication or offsite fabrication may not have been an option that you considered in the past. So after this presentation, hopefully you'll feel confident in specifying prefabricated railings for your project. One of the things I also like to discuss and get really a little bit more detailed into is, the differences between offsite fabrication, prefabrication versus, on-site with local metal fabricators. So we're getting right into understanding railing systems. So I like to focus on local fabrication. So uh, a lot of times with custom railings, it's common practice. So for the first step is the architect or designer is going to specify the railings. Um, and then a general contractor selects a local fabricator in most cases that they're going to use or is going to bid on the project. And the local fabricator will fabricate as much as possible offsite at their local shop. But to dial in everything, the local metal fabricator is going to rely on on-field or on-site modifications, on-site adjustments. So they're going to be doing a lot of cutting the metal, welding, grinding, polishing. In our industry, we call that these fabricators job shops. And most of the time, there's a metal master craftsman that can build pretty much anything out of metal. So they're not just fabricating metal railings, they're doing tables, hood systems, awnings, trellises, hardware, door hardware. So hiring a local metal fabricator definitely has its place, and it's, you know, a very respectable uh, job. There's, you know, they can really produce a truly original and unique work of art. So that's quite different from a manufacturer that prefabricates, in this case, you know, metal railings, stainless steel railings. So we'll get into why one of the main differences or some of the main differences in a second. So for 100% offsite fabrication or prefab, when I say prefabrication or offsite fabrication, those are essentially synonymous terms. I'll try to use prefabrication as much as possible because that is the name of our presentation here. But in most cases, after receiving a CAD drawings of the project, there's going to be a team of specialists for each part of the project. So there's going to be a team that designs, that does all the design work. There's a team of design consultants that are working directly with the architect or homeowner, designer, general contractor, just making sure they're getting as much details as possible. But then the next phase of the design, there's a whole design team that's going to really dial in all of the exact measurements before anything goes into fabrication. So then there's going to be another team when it gets into fabrication that handles the technology. So in today's age, we have these very advanced laser cutting machines. One is a laser fiber cutting machine, and it really is, we'll get into that in just a little bit, but it's very advanced and allows you to get very precise cuts. So the team that handles that, there's another team that handles the welding, the grinding, the polishing, and last but not least, but equally important, especially for prefabrication, is packaging and shipping. So everything has to arrive without any, you know, marks. So that is an important part of the process. But like I said, a prefabricator is very super specialized in just railing, just, you know, fabricating ornamental railing. That's all they're doing. And another thing to point out is, just as it says right here, it's a controlled environment. So the temperature is controlled. There's no wind. There's no other workers running around. There's no, you know, dangers of sparks and flammability. There's also no traveling for setup and no breaking down. There's not going to be on-site adjustments because everything's designed, everything's made for the job off-site, prefabricated. So everything's going to arrive numbered and ready to be installed. So we go back to comparing this to a local metal fabricator that has, you know, 20, 25 years, especially for large projects, the consistency of quality throughout the whole project. Like if you're working on a commercial project with several phases, it's extremely difficult for a local metal craftsman or a local metal fabricator to have the same consistency of welds as they do in phase one as they would in phase three, for instance, of a commercial project. So that's one of the huge advantages of prefabrication, is there's going to be the same almost exact consistency throughout each phase of the project. It's just very hard for a local metal craftsman to do because they're working on so many different types of projects. throughout throughout their calendar year. Like I said, they're working on many more metal projects than just stainless steel railings. So they might have had a certain way they did it in phase one of a project, and then there's going to be some very noticeable differences in phase three. But going back to the unique work of art that the metal craftsman is doing, the local metal fabricator, is just something you really want to consider if your client wants that really unique work of art. Then the local metal fabricator with the master craftsman is going to be the way to go. And then going back, just to the super specialized railing fabrication. That's a way that we can actually cut the cost down without losing the quality. So like I mentioned, with the large projects, large commercial projects, the quality is going to be very consistent throughout each one of the phases. And once again, we just like to point out that no highly skilled labor, we'll get into this a little bit later, is required, just because everything is going to be installed. There's going to be an installation guide in order to put all the railing together at even a very complicated project. So just a recap, the huge advantages of prefabricated railing. Product quality is not lost, it actually increases compared to a local metal fabricator for a large phased project or a large commercial project, for instance. The product waste and cost can come down. No breaking up or install. You can self-install it. A handy homeowner, if it is a residential project, can install it themselves. No on-site adjustments. Everything's designed at the off-site fabrication facility. And everything arrives numbered and ready to be installed. So it leaves for a very easy install.
Joel, there is one question. Do you want to take it at the end or?
I'm happy to take them throughout. Yeah, just feel free to interrupt.
Okay, so Mike said where and who is responsible for actual field conditions versus CAD drawings?
So for the act to actually capture the exact measurements, our designers are going to be sort of putting bullet points on the CAD drawings of where the exact measurements are going to need to be taken, and that's going to be communicated with the general contractors team. In most cases, general contractors are going to, in most cases, going to be handling for commercial projects. For residential projects, sometimes the homeowner is just going to be wanting to do everything themselves, but they're going to have to, from the first setup, there's going to be the design consultant, and I'm just talking from experience with our facility, so other prefabricators may do it a little bit differently. But in our case, our design consultants who are initially meeting with the client, whether it's an architect, designer, homeowner, are going to be capturing the basics of the project. So they're going to be trying to get as accurate measurements, dimensions as possible to give a fairly accurate estimate. But then it goes into the design phase, and that's when the designers are working with CAD, and then they're going to bullet point parts of the project that we just absolutely need the exact measurements that maybe weren't captured in the design consultant phase, and put bubbles by them to capture those. So the design team is going to be working specifically with the general contractor or homeowner to get those exact measurements. That's why the prefabricator is able to do everything on site. It's completely remote. So as long as the general contractor, the homeowner, is providing that most accurate measurement as possible, then you should be in good shape. They'll just fill in the bubbles, and then there's going to be a final approval before it goes from the design phase into fabrication. One thing that we do offer, just speaking from our facility for large commercial projects, is we have one of our, installation managers that works, at AGS Stainless, and they go directly to the job site for commercial projects that need just a little bit more hands-on for at least the first, part of the phase of the installation, but that's more in relation to installation rather than capturing measurements on site. Hopefully that answers that. Does that answer that, Mike? If you want to let me know, then
Okay.
yeah, if they haven't, just have them chime back in.
Yes, he
Feel
said,
free.
yes, it does.
Okay, perfect. All right. So another great thing about a prefabricator is designers, architects, homeowners can really use a prefabricator as, it's a highly skilled resource. In many cases, there's going to be an architect and an in-house engineer. So, when a prefabricator is just doing railings, on a weekly basis, on a daily basis, when you're only doing one thing, you get very, very good at it. Becomes all the processes become very improved and efficient. Um, and there's really no railing challenge that hasn't been resolved many times before, since railing is all that the prefabricator is doing. When there is challenges, for instance, if there's a high wind load challenge, on a high rise apartment where there's going to be a railing on the top of the roof, for a restaurant or something like that, that's where we can rely on or where an architect can rely on our in-house engineer, if they need a stamp of approval there, or, the architect can communicate with one of the architects at the prefabricator. So that's another great resource, or just a great, bullet point to keep in mind, is just, when you are having a challenge that you haven't seen before with any railing issue, you'll be able to call the prefabricator, because that's all that we're going to be doing. So now I'm just going to walk you through some installation photos, some jobs. Uh, and I really want to give you the opportunity to understand that application doesn't matter. So whether the project's an interior, like it is here, or exterior, residential, commercial, institutional, it really doesn't change a thing. Any place that you would ordinarily find ornamental railings or decorative railings, uh, you can specify railings that are 100% prefabricated offsite. So right here, as you can see, this is the Poly Prep County Day School in Brooklyn. It's the Verrazano Bridge in the background. So you guys know this way probably much better than me. Maybe even some of you have been to this particular school. Here's the school's interior. So I like to sort of point out, the details of this railing system. You compare this to a job that a local metal fabricator is doing, and you just imagine, sort of, as I said earlier, it becomes a job shop. So in the installation of this, there would be a lot of cutting, welding, grinding, polishing, all happening on site, and not to mention all the other contractors, subcontractors, installers that are going to be working on all the other parts of the project. So there's going to be a lot of commotion. It looks very beautiful and serene and still right here, but just imagine this right before installation. There's going to be a lot going on. So that's a huge benefit of prefabrication, is everything's going to arrive in boxes 8 feet or less, or in a crate if it's a larger commercial project like this. And there's just going to be, probably 2 or 3 general or contractors, team members that are going to need to install it. So, as you can see, this does appear to be, and it is, a fairly complex project with the goosenecks. There's multiple turns here. There's 90-degree angles, but it becomes a pretty simple install with offsite fabrication when everything's numbered. And like I said, you can always rely on the prefabricator if you have any questions about the installation. The prefabricator is there to answer. And in some cases, when it's very complex, or if the general contractor isn't feeling very confident for the first part of the install, that's where the prefabricator can come into play and have a consultant there for the first part of the installation. So here's another project. I like to just point out some of the other parts of the railing system. Right here, you can see mesh infill was used. So this is in Queens, New York, um, and it's this sort of look is becoming very, or it has been very popular in commercial and institutional projects for some time now. So this is a great. I like to point out this as well, just because it's one of those projects where you can really see how just stainless steel really complements, a scene like this where the landscape with the green in the back. It's just a stainless steel by itself, that's not painted, not powder coated. It looks very good in most backgrounds. So here's another picture. This is in Orlando, Florida, private resort. Um, and this project, you can see right here, the posts are core drilled. And I like to show this picture just because you can really start to appreciate stainless steel and how it minimizes obstruction. So the thinner dimensions right here, the very thin top rail right there, the cables, allow, for instance, if that couple were to go sit down on those chairs behind, they would really be able to just see the surrounding area. When you step a few feet back, the cables essentially disappear. So it's a great, great infill. And just here's another picture right here, project in the public marina in Washington that really shows how, when you step back, you can really see the surrounding area and the minimal obstruction. Here's a private community. These are actually, I believe this is Virgin Gorda is in the British Virgin Islands. So I don't believe it's the US Virgin Islands. That's a little typo right there that I didn't change, unfortunately. But yeah, another great picture to show the beauty of stainless steel and how it really complements, the stone in the background there. It really sort of acts as a mirror and takes on the elements of the surrounding area. So it'll capture greens, it'll capture the grays and the warmer colors of the stone and anything else, and then also gives you that very unobstructed view. Excuse me. So now we're going to get into the materials and components of a railing system. So this is getting back into sort of railing 101, but I like to sort of compare and contrast different materials that are used in a railing system and how they compare to stainless steel. So especially for residential, wood is the most common for railing systems. It's the lowest cost of entry. It's very versatile and easy to work with. Then we move to composite. Composite is very popular as well. I haven't really seen too many composite systems used indoor, so this is definitely one of those composites are usually supplied by lumber dealers, big box stores, and they can be made from anything from recycled carpet, tires, PVC, wood flour. Some of the companies that you'll see at lumber dealers or the big box stores are Trex, ASIC, and Moisture Shield. And then we move to aluminum, which is the most common metal used in projects. It's also very easy to work with. And it's usually in most cases painted or powder coated to help reduce the corrosive nature of it. And then stainless steel, which we're focusing on this presentation. So in terms of visual impact, there's really no other commonly used material that can match. It has that wow factor. So I like to point out other stainless aspects or stainless systems that you would see in a home, for instance, like a Sub-Zero refrigerator, a Wolf gas range, or a Thermador. When you think of those stainless steel appliances, when you walk into a kitchen, they just really pop out at you. And so when you think of railing systems, they're in many cases one of the most visible parts of many projects. So it's really important that they stand out. And I'll get into a little term that we like to use is functional artwork. And that's really what a stainless steel system, stainless steel railing is. And I'll explore that a little bit more in a minute. So the components of a railing system, um, we have the infill, top rail, posts. This is all pretty common sense, but I like to just sort of, point them out, connections, because we are going to talk about connections and, how these other infill, how it relates to the railing system. But yeah, um, we'll focus on wood posts first. Wood is the most common, as I said. Most wood systems are 4x4 inch posts. This particular one is using a cable rail. That's probably one of the most popular infill right now, just for outdoor living projects, especially. There's a number of different ways to connect the infill. They can go directly through the posts, or they can connect with a toggle at each post. But this is a great conversation to have with your manufacturer. As it says right here, there are numerous and unique varied framing options possible. And wood, especially for residential, is going to be the most cost effective. Composite posts are often sleeves that go over the wood posts. Like I mentioned a little earlier, they usually come in big box stores or lumber dealers off the shelf. They do get very bulky very quickly. So as I said, they're not going to be really used for interior applications, mostly for outdoor. And it becomes very difficult to tie indoor living spaces together with outdoor spaces when you have, a composite in the outside. Aluminum posts, usually 2 to 2.5 inches. As I sort of hinted to earlier, they are very popular. Aluminum metals, definitely one of the most popular metals, but it's also the least noble. So it's going to corrode very easily, and it needs a protective barrier. And usually that's going to be powder coating. But the powder coating, the great thing about it is it does offer a very flexible, solution to go with any design, because you can choose any color you want. Black is very popular today, just from our research throughout the country. Black is a very popular color for outdoor, especially for aluminum and even powder coating stainless steel. So the great thing about stainless steel posts, they're great indoor and outdoor, perfect for indoor outdoor applications. I like this picture because we were just talking about how stainless steel appliances sort of pop out at you in the kitchen. So in this scenario right here, you can sort of see how the stainless steel railing right here really pairs nicely with the kitchen appliances. It really ties it together and gives you that very beautiful visual impact. So that's where, I like to bring in that term back, functional artwork, when you're comparing that to traditional artwork, like a painting or a sculpture, which is, very beautiful to have around the house and just something that you constantly are looking at and appreciating. You can do the same with the stainless steel railings. It really has that beauty and that artwork to it, but it's also has the functional aspect, and that the project owner is going to be using the system many times throughout the day. So it's functional and it's artwork. And like I said, it's great. The great thing about stainless steel, it's great for indoor, outdoor, residential, commercial. And we're going to get into, I like to sort of bring up the different types of stainless steel. 304 is going to be very popular. But if you're, especially by like coastal regions, to choose a 316 marine grade is going to be your best option. Either of them are very durable. The 316 marine grade is just going to hold up to the elements, especially the salt water in the air, or the salt in the air, much better than 304. So that's a good conversation to have with the manufacturer, the prefabricator, to just ask them, or to find out the specs and just to specify 316 when you can, especially in those marine environments, especially like New York City. The Atlantic coast or the Atlantic Ocean is particularly more, uh, it's more abusive on stainless steel systems than, for instance, the Pacific Ocean. So you do want to address maintenance. I don't really have a maintenance slide, but uh, as you know, it sort of indicates stainless. It's not stain proof or stain. You do have to consider that even with stainless steel, even though it's less corrosive than aluminum, you want to make sure you're putting a protective barrier on it with, which the prefabricator will be happy to tell you what their protective maintenance is and then their ongoing maintenance. But that's definitely a good conversation. It's a necessary conversation to have with the client, the project owner, just to make sure they're aware that you can't just install it and leave it. Even stainless steel will begin to break down from especially saltwater environments. So now we're getting into the connections. This is one of my favorite sections because this is where you really begin to see the quality when you're comparing to different railing systems and different railing prefabricators or just local metal fabricators in general. The connections are one way that you can really tell, the quality difference. So, when we're talking about quality and pricing, there's a great quote that I sort of took from my colleague, which says, until someone understands the value of a product, any price is unreasonable. So that's really where you want to have that conversation with the manufacturer. And I have a little slide right here. I don't know if I can show it to you, but if you can see this. Mike, can you see this right here? I can't see myself in the screen right now, so I'm not sure.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. Let me see if I can find a way to find myself. Okay, there I am. All right. So this is a stem reducer and a post right here. So in many cases, when you're checking out different manufacturers, just really take a look at the connections, the different connections there, and I'll get to the base next. But if you see a seam right here, like this, that means that the stem reducer has been popped into place. It's been popped into the post, and they're most likely using screws or they're using some sort of adhesive. It's the easiest way to pop into the top post. So if you can't see that, just like this picture is sort of showing right here, let me see if I can highlight it a little bit more. There's the seam right there is nearly invisible, meaning that it's been welded, ground down, and polished to essentially become invisible. So this is a good indication that you're working or you're specifying a manufacturer that is fabricating at the highest standard of quality, the industry's highest standard of quality. So it essentially becomes invisible or a work of art. So get away from there. And it's a really, like it says right here, a key identifier between railing types. So now we move to the base connection.
Hey, Joel, before you start, Jose
Yes,
was asking, what is the cost difference between 304 and 316 grade?
that's a great question. I'll have to ask my technical team that. We only at AGS, we're only using 316 stainless steel. Many manufacturers are going to use 304 and 316. We've been using 316 as a standard for many years. So I'll have to get back to, as long as I can get, it was Jose, right? If I can get Jose's
Perez,
contact
yes.
information, then I'll be able to give him a better understanding of what that price difference is.
And we can send that to you.
Okay, perfect. Versus, I'm just making a quick note. Thank you. So I don't think you can really see it on this one, maybe a little bit, not really. I don't have enough light. So you can just pay attention to this, the screen right here. And this is another way to really tell about the quality of the connections. So um, the reason that there's less stress on the top rail, so that's why they're able to really grind this down and polish it to where it is essentially invisible. When you're dealing with the the base, there's a tremendous amount of stress on that base plate connection. So in many cases, especially for commercial art or industrial, or even, in many cases, the local metal fabricator is just out of the fact that they just don't have enough time to do the TIG welding, they'll choose a MIG weld. So it's like it says right here, it's done for high speed commercial production, and where the customer maybe even likes that more industrial look. But the TIG welding, tungsten inertia gas is what it stands for. You're able to get very detailed, and this is sort of, you can see right there, that's a stack of dimes or a roll of dimes. And all these puddles are laid by hand at that fillet weld. So this beautiful final product really takes a lot more time to do that. Like I mentioned, at the prefabricator, you have one specific specialist that's all they're doing. That's their entire job, is doing those base plate connections right there with the TIG weld. Um, so for a local metal fabricator that's doing tons of different projects, tons of different metal projects, not just railing, doing a puddle, laying these puddles by hand for a project is going to take a lot of time. So in just to give you sort of an idea of a price point, the national average for something like this, for a local metal fabricator to lay those puddles by hand and use that TIG welding, is anywhere from 450 to 550 per linear foot, to get that same quality of, they're doing this on the, they're doing the connections up here and this connection down here. It's going to cost significantly more. When you're with a prefabricator, because of all those processes being, just better understood and becoming more efficient over time, just because that's all we're doing is railing prefabrication, is essentially you're cutting the price in half. So for a prefabricator, it's anywhere from 200 to 250 per linear foot, 270 per linear foot. So essentially, you're cutting the cost in half without losing any of the quality. Hopefully that makes sense. So this is just this is an illustration of our fabricator executing those fillet welds by hand in the controlled environment. So that's that tungsten inertia gas. It'd be nice to have another angle to that, but yeah. So like I mentioned, all the cutting, grinding, welding is all done in that controlled environment. So especially for those large projects, you can have that really nice TIG weld laid by hand, on all of the posts throughout a large commercial project or a residential project. And that's one of the beauty, another beauty, just something else that's sort of adds to that functional artwork for stainless steel. So now we'll talk a little bit about the top rail. Wood top rail, again, very common. In many cases, the prefabricator will only provide the stainless steel components or the metal components. The wood will be done by others, but all the cable, the fittings, the posts will all be fabricated by the prefabricator. So I like to point out this picture too, just because you can sort of see how the stainless steel and the wood, the car decking, and the stair treads, along with that wood top rail, it really ties everything together. And then it has the stainless steel to back it up to make it very, very elegant looking, and just it really goes well together. I really like that job right here. Aluminum, people sometimes do decide to have a aluminum top rail and maybe a stainless steel for the rest of the system, like stainless steel posts and then an aluminum top. It doesn't happen too often, but if you are you're working with a system for some reason, maybe the client really liked a top rail that they found that was aluminum, or they wanted a larger profile, but they liked the sleek look of the stainless steel posts. If you do that, you just want to make sure there's a clear break between the metals, because electrolysis will happen when the aluminum touches the stainless steel, and it will degrade very quickly, especially outdoor, just because of the fact that the aluminum isn't noble. So the aluminum will start to, be affected very quickly. So usually using like a synthetic gasket to, make that clear break, just make sure you're doing that. Composite, again, it's not really shown in this picture, but as I mentioned earlier, it's a great look for outdoors. And talking about composite, again, you definitely want some kind of support, because a lot of issues can arise, especially in the summer heat. As for the posts, like the space between posts, you're looking at 3 foot from center for commercial and 4 feet for residential. And then just to keep in mind, for composite too, deflection is pretty common. So like I said, just make sure you're getting all the details from the manufacturer if you are specifying something that's composite or aluminum or stainless steel or wood. So I'm just comparing different stainless steel top rails right now. So the round is definitely the most grippable. The flat top rail, that was shown in several of the pictures that I showed you just a little bit ago. It's just that it's a 1/2 inch thick. So like I said, again, it does a great job minimizing obstruction. Our actually name for this is Clearview. So it sort of explains why it's just, such a good product for just minimizing that obstruction. It essentially just disappears when you step a few feet back, like I said. But when you get into the other material, the posts for stainless steel, you're looking at 1.5 inches thick, 1.5 by 1.5, whereas aluminum's 2.5 and wood's 4.5, and then composite goes even thicker. So once again, stainless steel just is a great way to minimize the obstruction. I probably said that way too many times. I apologize. So infill materials. This is the largest portion of the railing system, and it gives you the opportunity to get very creative, and it also adds a lot of visual impact. You can see right here these different panelized infills. Glass is the largest grouping. I'm going to sort of focus on this one for a second. This one right here is obscure glass for privacy, or it could also be a windbreak. So you can do a lot with glass. I sort of mentioned it earlier. You want to make sure that you're addressing the wind loads as well, especially with a high railing system. This is much higher than normal, so the wind could be a very big factor when it comes to the engineering and the fabrication. So you definitely want to make sure the engineer is on board with installations that where wind is a huge factor. So glass infills is another one. In most cases, the prefabricator is, like I said, is going to provide all the stainless steel components, and the glass will be by others. And most likely contractor or the homeowner will just, wherever else they're using glass in their project, they'll use the same glass company for the railings as well. And as I mentioned, the stainless steel or other metals will be provided by the prefabricator. The glass is probably, in most cases, as long as it's being maintained, it's the best way to minimize the impact of the surrounding area, like it mentions right there. Mesh panels. This one is Dave & Buster's. This one was specified by Aria Group. And you can see powder coat. Powder coating is an option. And actually, a lot of people request powder coating, even with stainless steel. It's more of a requirement or a necessity for aluminum, but Some people just want, that design element of, different colors of powder coating. So like you can see right here, the posts and the clamps are all, and the tail top rails are all green. The mesh panels, a brushed stainless. The panel manufacturer here is Banker Wire. They created the U channel to hold the mesh panel, and our system our clamps hold the system in place. This is another, it's another good idea to just, take a look at some of the mesh panel manufacturers out there. McNichols, for instance, is a big name, but it's another way to just really make your project pop. Cable infill is very popular these days. So like I already we talked about quite a bit, it minimizes the obstruction. It's a lot less maintenance than glass. So you sort of compare like fingerprints, the bird hits, glass, bugs are all over it. So it can become, for large projects, a big maintenance task. Whereas for outdoor, at least, for cable, you can, simply hose it off and you're good to go. Then there's bar infill. So this has a lot in common with cables. A lot of people actually feel it looks a little bit more elegant. And another great thing about the rods, or we call it bar, I think on the East Coast, we call it rods. But they don't require periodic retentioning like it says right here. And in many cases, when you're working with a local metal fabricator, I can't get too close to this, but they'll be welding each one of these bars or rods into the posts. So there's going to be, a lot of work that has to be done. Whereas a prefabricator, the rods are going to be going directly through the posts, just because of the technology that's available. Like I mentioned, the laser fiber technology is a way that they do this. And so this is sort of what the system looks like, a little snapshot. It's about a 50-foot long fiber laser cutting machine. And it just allows for very precise cuts for all the components. So you can sort of see how precise it's getting right here. I believe right here, they're fabricating a light system where a LED light will go into the post, to allow just lighting for to go up or down stairs, or just for an outdoor system. And it can actually get down to 4/1000ths of an inch, so very precise. So that's one way that they're able to get the rods directly through the posts, and you're not even going to be able to see daylight going through them. Do we have any more questions, Mike? All right, I'm going to keep on going.
Think so. No.
Okay. So now we're moving into the last section of the presentation. We're really going to drill down on the code requirements of the railing. I'll just check my time really quick. Because railing systems are part of the health and safety components of a project, there are specific code requirements that have to be taken into consideration. So railing systems, and especially cable, have a number of different requirements that you may or may not be familiar with. So we'll begin with handrail requirements. Handrail refers to the graspable element of the railing system designed to assist you in ascending or descending a staircase. The handrail's height shouldn't be less than 34 inches and no more than 38 inches. So the guard requirements refer to the protective railing component located at the open side that prevents a person from falling down to a lower level, or it doesn't have to be a person, it prevent an animal as well. A guard railing is required for stairs, ramps, balconies, or walking surfaces that are elevated more than 30 inches from the floor or grade below. It requires at all points, it's required at all points within 36 inches horizontally to the edge of the open side. And the minimum height requirements for guard railing is 42 inches for commercial, and 36 inches for residential, as it says. And now, we'll briefly cover the opening requirements, which are very important as well. Many of you might already be familiar with a 4-inch sphere rule. That code just requires that there can't be any openings wide enough for a 4-inch sphere in diameter to pass through anywhere from the base of the walking surface to the required guard height. And then we have the 6-inch sphere rule. That's sort of the exception. That's where the rule is the gap created by the stair tread, the stair riser, and the bottom rail. So the code requires that the 6-inch sphere rule should be unable to pass through this triangular gap. And last but not least, the load requirements. So the load refers to a certain amount of pressure either applied to a specific point of the railing system or distributed throughout the entire system. And this is measured per linear foot. So handrails and guards are required to resist 50 pounds per linear foot and 200 pounds of concentrated load. So very important. It's not the most exciting, but it's definitely important. So this is essentially the conclusion. I would just like to summarize that, some of the big advantages of offsite fabrication, especially for those large projects, product quality is going to go up. Your product costs will come down, and the waste as well. So it'll add to that sustainability factor. And you really give your builders, contractors, homeowners the opportunity to self-install, which they will really appreciate. When the railings have been prefabricated, one person can do the work of 2 to 3 people compared to local fabrication. But I also just like to stress the importance of local metal fabrication too, because they're creating so many different works of art, not only works of art that go in the houses, but also functional artwork like these railing systems that are just very unique. But it has its place, and just like prefabrication has its place. And it's just something that you may have not considered too many times. I always like to do some of the presentations. We like to do polls and find out how many people have used prefabrication in their specifications. But when you understand prefabrication with railing systems, it starts to give you ideas about other products as well. And I think that was part of the learning objective for you guys too, is just really realizing ask yourself that question, what other products within, your specific project could be prefabricated. So hopefully, understanding prefabrication of railings will just, sort of open up your imagination and give you some ideas about other ways you might be able to become more sustainable. And that can sort of concludes my main, the course for the credit that you're receiving from AIA today. I have a little bit more time, so I like to just sort of talk a little bit more about AGS stainless. We've been around for over 30 years. So like I said, railings is all we do. I always like to just, recommend going to, agsstainless.com. There's a lot of good resources there, and you can, scroll down to the bottom of that page and find all the specification information that you need on CAD details, RCAT, and some other resources that we use as well. And you can find all the information about our different solutions. One of the other things that I like to focus on at AGS Stainless is our hybrid fabrication. So everything that we were talking about today was 100% prefabricated. First, I'm guessing we don't have any more questions because I just asked you a little bit ago. Do we have
Joe,
any questions right now?
Joe, we do have one.
Okay.
How large does the project need to be to warrant prefabrication?
That is a great question. I don't think there's a specific answer to how large the project, because honestly, at AGS Stainless, I work on the commercial team at AGS Stainless. So, but there's a whole team. Most of our team is actually residential consultants. So we're prefabricating systems for residential projects all over the country that can be anywhere from, a 10 by 10 by 10 foot deck or something. So there isn't really, I don't know if there's a specific volume that would sort of say, oh yeah, we need to do this prefabrication. I guess that would sort of depend maybe on just whether your firm's offering, residential and commercial or just commercial. I don't think there's a particular size that warrants that, but I'd be happy to sort of get some more information from some of my colleagues and get a better answer for you, what they think. But yeah, like I was saying, at AGS, we're doing small residential projects every day. And then we do, very large commercial projects for hotels and different condos and everything like that. So yeah, I think doesn't matter.
Another
Side.
question is, how long is the guarantee of the railing welds?
Well, our warranty at AGS Stainless, every prefabricator is going to have a different warranty. Our warranty is 3 years, but that doesn't mean it's going to, you know, stop working after 3 years, or the weld or the connections are going to deteriorate or anything like that. We just have our specific reasons for the 3-year warranty. As long as you're taking care of the system and not letting it deteriorate or corrode just by lack of maintenance, then it will last, it's a lifetime product, especially stainless steel. Hopefully that answered that. Any more questions, Mike?
Let me see. Hold on. I think that's it.
All right. Well, as I was saying, I focused on this other product. I like to bring, we offer this system called Cascadia Railings Systems. This is more of a residential product. Like I was saying, most of our products for prefabrication are 100% custom. So we're designing the entire project, on a project to project basis. We're prefabricating the entire system, 100% custom. Cascadia Railings is a system that we brought into existence about 4 years ago or so, or 4 or 5 years ago, and it's prefabricated up to 80% complete. So it's one of these systems that it can be stocked at a lumber dealer. It has the same look, but it doesn't require 100% customization for the project. So you would just buy these different components. The bars or the rods come in, 7 feet 9 inch lengths, and then they're cut. That's basically the only sort of job site adjustment you're doing on site, is cutting bars to sides. Excuse me. Oh, never mind. So this just gives you an idea of that a hybrid option is available, and this is good for, you can specify this, but I like to just point this out just in case. This is a pretty unique product in that, you can buy the components and it doesn't have to be super customized. Everything's, the posts are top mounted. The knuckles right here that you can see in the post assembly, those are adjustable, so they can go up and down stairs. The top rail, that's mounted to be adjustable too, so it can go up and down stairs, and it holds a wood top rail. But it's just one of those systems that it essentially eliminates all the design work. So this is the design process that's required for a bar railing system. And I sort of went into this a little bit ago, how the builder, the architect submits drawings to AGS, and then we create a dimension request. There's a lot of steps, but for the hybrid bar railing system, Cascadia, no custom design work is needed or required. So, and it's ICCES approved, so it can be installed anywhere in the US and Canada without having to get, very costly engineering. And you're still getting that beautiful rod rail look. So this is one of the systems that I focus on, and I do present it to a lot of lumber dealers and distributors throughout the country. I know it's not as relevant for the community, the architectural community, but I like to point it out. And once again, I just like to definitely recommend you all to just check out AGS Stainless. Here's my contact information if you want to take that down. But you can sort of see, oh, I forgot agsstainless.com. But yeah, my email is joel@agsstainless.com, my cell and my office. And yeah, it was great presenting to you all. I hope the weather's getting better over where you guys are. It's been a little crazy this winter, but I really appreciate your time and highly recommend just checking out agsstainless.com. And if you have any projects you're working on right now, or if you have some future projects that you feel might be a good fit, we would love to support you. You can reach out to me directly. I'm on the commercial team, like I said, so we can work with you on commercial projects. And if it's a residential, I'll most likely refer you to one of our residential design consultants, and we'll do our best to take care of you, in the best way possible. So thanks so much, Mike. I appreciate you inviting us to this webinar, and I hope you all have a great rest of your week.